There is complexity here, and I'm not dismissing that, and it's so difficult on a panel or on any kind of, as you say, like, just to get across. This is the value proposition, and it sometimes you just need to give it a bit of space to breathe. Welcome to this episode of The Future We Build. I'm Alex, and today I'm talking with Pål Hauff Hvattum, co-founder and CEO of CQuel. Commercial real estate has net zero plans everywhere, but the UK alone needs to spend £110 billion in retrofits by 2050, and most of it isn't happening fast enough. The technology exists, the capital's there, but the gap between strategy and implementation is slowing progress. This is the mission that Pål is on. A previously successful founder building online marketplaces, Pål turned his attention to decarbonisation. Spun out of Hines, CQuel seeks to fix the broken decarbonisation process by connecting commercial retrofit projects to vetted suppliers, bringing transparency and speed to what traditionally has been fragmented and expensive. Our conversation today explores why the traditional model fails and how the industry can move from planning to doing faster. Stick around towards the end when I ask Pål how much faster CQuel can deliver versus the traditional process. Seems like a no-brainer. Let's get into it. Welcome, Pål Hauff Hvattum.
Thank you.
To The Future We Build. Really glad to have you here in London. Looking forward to this conversation for a lot of reasons, and we can get into, and I'll ask you in a second to properly introduce yourself and what you do. But when I was putting this season together, and the whole point of this podcast is obviously trying to discuss some of the challenges within the industry, but really also, I guess, elevate and promote those that are really trying to solve and crack this problem. So I think that plays to what you're doing at CQuel, but also I think, given your origin story, it's a good example, I think, of what is possible if real estate really kind of puts its money where its mouth is in terms of incubating ideas. So why don't we start there? Because from the outside looking in, the origin of where you guys came from within Hines, it looks like the kind of, that's the perfect kind of innovation story. So hand to you. Can you just sort of, bit of a brief intro to you, your journey, and obviously then how maybe you joined CQuel, but how much you can sort of shed light on that sort of original origin.
Yeah. So CQuel is, we're a part of Hines Global Ventures.
Yeah.
So we were started within Hines. How did I get there? So I've been building marketplaces. I'm from Norway. I was a part of a very successful international marketplace company called Avinta. So we were rolling out marketplaces all across Europe for many years. One of the first ones out, and really making those vibrant marketplaces in different markets all across Europe. And then in Latin America, so I was doing that from Paris, I was doing that from Mexico, I was doing that all across the world for many years. So I know a couple of things about marketplaces, how to connect services, products with customers in different markets.
Can you give me, sorry, just pause a bit.
Yeah.
Can you give me an example of one that I might know about?
So we ended up acquiring a company called Gumtree, which you probably know in the UK.
Yeah.
We have those household names all across Europe. We have eBay Kleinanzeigen in Germany. We have some of the biggest brands.
So B2C and B2B?
B2C, B2B,
Okay.
and all of the buzzwords,
Okay.
all about creating the network effects,
Okay.
supply and demand,
Interesting. Okay.
balance.
Yeah.
So I've been doing that. I did that for 15 years. A bit like a corporate venture in many ways, because I was building startups from within a big corporation. So I was sent around the world with a quite generous budget, trying to build these things up. Sometimes we succeeded, and we created some incredible ventures, and they're worth a lot, and they're slam dunks, and sometimes we didn't. So I brought lots of those learnings around, what makes a marketplace and that dynamic successful, and what doesn't. And then COVID hit at some point, and I was turning 40. I was a father. I wanted to save the world. I wanted to use my energy on something that made a bit more sense than only buying and selling used mobile phones. So I was attracted to a Scandinavian company called Otovo, I knew the founder a bit from beforehand. He actually came from the same company, so I became the CBO of Otovo. And Otovo,
solar, right?
Otovo is a marketplace, a bit the same dynamic, but marketplace for solar panels and batteries.
Right.
So I was expanding then that solution out in all Europe, sitting in Berlin, flying from Barcelona, where I live, to Berlin every week, doing that for at least 5-6 months, when I got the phone call from Hines.
Okay.
So end of 2023, Hines, you know about Hines, but for the ones who don't know, Hines is one of the giants in commercial real estate, quite different from many of the other ones. So created a brand around a verticalized model. They started off constructing some of the state-of-the-art, most impressive pieces of office buildings in the US and later all across the world. Deeply rooted into construction, into engineering, into perfection architecture, and that is something you can sense in every corner of the company. The founder was a mechanical engineer, so it's kind of even resonates with what CQuel is doing. But they also been very, very, very vocal and very ambitious around ESG.
Yeah.
So in 2023, ESG was the buzzword. It was all about having that glossy mid-paper in the
I remember those days.
Annual reports, and they wanted to start one of the ventures in their new Hines Global Ventures around decarbonisation. So that was the mandate they had, and they called me because I had a relevant background, and that was the start of CQuel.
Okay. So it was effectively so the problem, I guess, is, as I sort of alluded to earlier, is we know there's a problem because we're living it and feeling it every day.
Yeah.
Let's try and solve the problem. Let's incubate that solution within. And I assume that in the early days, and I remember because Gary was obviously there in the early days.
Yeah.
And okay, we can use the portfolio within the actual portfolio of Hines to kind of test, learn, and build, which is the sort of perfect example of, well, here's access to X number of buildings, let's test it. And then at what point does it become officially sort of a standalone business? Is it? I'm assuming it is now.
Now it is. So the idea was powerful in itself. They wanted to identify a couple of areas where Hines and the industry in itself had some really hard nuts to crack, some challenges. One of them was around using unused spaces, so that became one of the ventures. One was around how to create marketing material to more efficiently unlet office spaces. And one started off around the decarbonisation challenge, and the thinking was basically we have a sandbox of our own buildings. We can create something using our own, eating our own dog food in the beginning, create a solid solution, and then roll it out.
Yeah.
So from the beginning, the idea was obviously for us to be spinning out of the mothership. But I think they were even surprisingly generous in the time they gave and the investment they gave for us to really get out of the starting blocks, ready for the battle outside.
And so, I mean, I guess there's a question here and I guess a reflection. But on the question side, so how successful has CQuel been at helping Hines decarbonise its own portfolio? I mean, were you there then? Do you know? I mean, I'm assuming you've got the data. So I'm just curious to know, like, actually, is there now examples where there's a proper kind of run through from sort of inception of idea through to, okay, that's now living and breathing and working within the portfolio? So
we started off with obviously a couple of Hines projects. 2024 was when we went to market with something that was marketable. 2024 was a year 100% focused on Hines. We did a couple of decarb projects in Germany. We helped one of the office spaces in Hamburg change their LED system. We helped a logistics centers in the UK find their ideal solar installers. We run a couple of projects. We got the muscle memory. We built the product around it. So we did 3-4 Hines projects within a couple of months end of 2024, and with those we went out to market, and we got the next one.
So let's go to, I mean, for those that are listening that don't know, so I mean, what is the sort of value proposition then to, not to Hines, but to any real estate company? And well, I guess firstly, who is your customer, and what is your value proposition to them? I think we should just roll back 2 seconds. Retrofits and decarb is a big world, and and not everything is for CQuel, and not everything should be treated in the same way. I think when we think about retrofits, we think about the complete deep retrofits of offices in the city of London, and we think about these very, very massive and complex things with lots of technologies happening at the same time. Those do happen. 70% of decarb retrofits are actually quite simple. So it's one technology at this time. It's either it's solar, it's light, HVAC, it is EV charging, it is LED lighting. It's something that is simpler. That is CQuel's world. So we go for the light retrofits, the things that you can tender competitively, the things that are less bespoke, the processes where you don't need a room full of different consultants. You need help, but you need most of all, you need all those extremely time-consuming manual processes to be run differently. So that's not really how CQuel, where CQuel started. CQuel was given a task which was figure out how you can accelerate the decarbonization of commercial real estate. We started off kind of looking into what was already there. We were looking at how to assess buildings, how to identify the best decarbonization plans, and then we realized that that's a space already, crowded by lots of SaaS players, lots of consultants, and frankly, creating the plan on how to decarbonize is not a big problem. So we quite quickly drifted towards implementation. That's really where things get stranded. That's where the action is,
Exactly. And you see that by when you look around an office like Hines's or whatever, you can go into whatever commercial real estate company in the world. If you open the drawers, you find net zero plans, and every piece of paper is worth 35,000 euros, and they put them on top of your desk, and then you put them in the drawer, and then you put them in the bin, and then you make a new one. So we realized it's in the implementation is where things are broken, and it's broken because you actually have 3 options if you want to decarbonize your building as a building owner. Either you go for consultants, and consultants have a unfit business model where you pay for hours, because they tend to spend lots of time on processes that take lots of hours, and they have big staff, and then that's
and they repeat the process.
So you either go for a consultant,
which is the standard model, right?
Which is the standard model, or you use your own people, but you use your own people in a very inefficient way, because tenderings and creating briefs are still happening on spreadsheets.
And the skill set is questionable.
Or you can use some SaaS solutions, but they are point solutions. They can help you solve tiny problems, but there's no solution taking you from A to Z. It ends up being very fragmented. It ends up being quite expensive, and it ends up being quite time consuming. So we realized that this is where we need to come in and disrupt, and we created what we call an implementation platform. It's a service where we have incredible mechanical engineers using their own brains and our own tools. So we've created a set of tools, AI obviously, but AI is driving most of the software.
Exactly. Who's not?
Who's not? So we have a marketplace with hundreds and hundreds of vetted suppliers, and we have a set of AI-driven software features that can take a project from the assessment that has been made by a consultant to implementation. That part of the journey is what we take.
Okay. So let me just play that back. So I'm a real estate manager, asset manager. I get my net zero audit done. I then give it to you,
Yeah.
I plug it in, and you can take that, assess it, and then come back to me or run the analysis of, here are the best solutions, providers to solve that problem. Here's what it's going to cost you, and then here's a project plan to execute.
So we take a decarbonization plan. We can make it as well.
Sure. Okay.
But most already have them in the drawers. If you don't have it, we have lots of partners. We can do it for.
Yeah.
And we can do that in a very cost efficient way. But 9 out of 10 cases, we get a quite clear steer on.
Well, that's the trigger, I guess, because they've now been given it and they don't know what to do with it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
9 out of 10 cases, we have a decarbonization assessment that needs to happen.
Yeah.
We have an internal team saying either we don't have the resources, so we're not going to do it, or they're reluctant. The other options aren't really very tempting. So we take the net zero plan. We make sense of it. So we have a piece of software analyzing the plans and everything related to that building, sense checking if the assessment makes sense, and then we create a brief. So we have a piece of software called a brief builder.
Okay.
It's an interactive tool with obviously machine learning and algorithms and LLM, enabling a client to create the state-of-the-art brief. Brief is important. I don't come from the industry, but I realized something quite early in our journey, and that is the quality of the brief has an enormous impact on the quality of the bids. We see you can get 40% better prices, quicker delivery. So we needed to create a piece of software around creating the briefs, and that's the brief builder. So you use our software to create a state-of-the-art brief. You take that brief out to our vetted suppliers. Vetted is
and this is your marketplace experience, I guess. The vetted.
Exactly.
Okay.
So we have a 16-step vetting process where we look at everything from obviously financials to accreditations to track records. So we match the briefs we make with the suppliers we have. We invited the suppliers that have the right relevance for that kind of project. The suppliers bid on the platform using their own back office. So we have it's a two-sided marketplace where they have a set of tools enabling them to participate in bids in an easy way.
So when they sign up to become a partner with you, they then have that application.
Exactly.
Okay. That's quite smart. Okay.
So they bid, and then we help the client choose who to work with. Trying to compare apples to apples.
And so then it goes back to the client with here's now a sort of fully scoped, fully sort of costed plan over to you to execute, or can you guys then also partner up? And
so we also have,
I guess it depends where it is and what it is.
The successful businesses I've made in my life are around partnering up. So do what's core and buy what's not.
Exactly.
So we have partners on the assessment side, and we have partners in the two extremes. We work with partners on the assessment side and on the project management side. So in case you have a level of complexity where you would need project managers, we do that for you.
Yeah, and I think frankly, I mean that's clever because as much as the industry, there's a lot of disruption that needs to happen, and there's a lot of, frankly, it's all built on relationships, and there's still a lot of incumbent kind of relationships, and it's going to be difficult to completely usurp that with a sort of vertical. So I think plugging in and saying, well, look, we can offer it to you, but also if you want to work with your mate, we can do that as well. But I think that process, your end-to-end process, just speaking from experience, it can be such a painful experience and such a painful process. And as you say, it can be quite long, it can be quite tedious. And also there are so many sort of bumps in the road that kind of you skip off and you end up sort of not making a decision, or you end up sort of coming back and starting again. And I think, obviously, as I say, there'll be, and as you rightly say, there'll be companies out there that, okay, well, we've got this, we've got an in-house team or whatever. But the vast majority of buildings are managed by companies that don't have that. And so to be able to outsource that to you guys is obviously, I can see that. One thing I just come back to is, and maybe you sort of touched on this at the beginning when you said, your sweet spot is the sort of 70% single, or to use that, maybe it's not single, but at least sort of simpler kind of execution. Because one of the questions I had in my mind, but maybe it's a moot point, is and I'm thinking, sat here in London, big trophy building where you've got a big retrofit, there's suddenly 15 things that you need to do, or even maybe, if I'm an asset manager and I'm sat there looking at a capex plan, okay, we want to put solar on the roof. Oh, but we're going to do that when the tenant leaves. And during that break, we're also going to, I don't know, retile the entrance, or we're going to whatever. Yeah. That's not sustainability related. Yeah. But it means that we can have people on site, we might have scaffolding up, we might have other things that are sort of complementary, which obviously you only really know the sort of full cost efficiency of that. Almost you don't really know about it until after you get sent the bill. But the sort of QS will kind of run rings around that, trying to figure out if there are efficiencies of, I guess, pulling work streams together. Yep. Just curious to know, I mean, is that just too complex to model? So, which is kind of maybe, as I say, coming back to your point, is like it's much easier and it's just much more simple to just be like, here's a line item, let's execute on that, which I fully get. Is I guess maybe my experience has been more on the sort of messier.
So it's a conversation I had. I think I had it 3 times yesterday.
Okay.
So
it's very, I can imagine.
Often in bigger commercial real estate companies, you have a couple of standalone projects, and then you have quite a lot of the more complex ones for lots of things happening at the same time. Complete refurbishments, construction projects. CQuel will be very relevant there as well, and we're testing out with some of our more trusted partners the first tenders on the general contractor level, and how we can use our tooling and our platform, our mechanical engineers in a way that is efficient when lots of things are happening at the same time. So we're going to get there.
But yeah, it just takes time.
I think one of the challenges when you have a startup, and we're still a startup, is to be ring fencing and be very clear on the things you're not doing in the beginning. So we've been very, very, very conscious of only doing operational carbon, even though we've been thrown into embodied, but we're in operational carbon. Only doing retrofits. So even though with some requests around construction, we haven't done that yet. It's a natural adjacent. We start in a couple of markets. We started in UK, now we do UK and Germany. Germany is flying, so it's probably now 67% of the things we're doing. But we're very consciously saying no to the first request from France or from Poland or from Italy, Spain. I spoke with someone from Portugal yesterday. But that will happen. And then more complexity, more technologies. Yes. Okay. Yeah, just probably not now.
Yeah, it makes sense, and I think it's clever and smart to be disciplined in that way, because otherwise you can end up stretching yourself too thin, and you end up not delivering the value. So you've sort of touched on it, because one of the things I was going to ask you is kind of what you're doing today is, as you read, decarbonisation, but at operational level, sort of simpler commercial. And it's just commercial, or is it residential as well?
So we're doing lots of commercially owned residential, which is getting more and more important. Just doing things in the UK with what's the new warm house plan? And
obviously you've got EPC regulation here in the UK, which is on the residential side has just been clarified. So UK becomes your sort of next core target market, or is
so we actually started off in the UK, and then the partners we work with have lots of buildings.
Sure.
We have lots of the traction we have in Germany is through our second shareholder, Aroundtown. So we actually have a baby of 2 parents. we have the mothership from Hines, and then we have a bit of a smaller father in Aroundtown.
Okay.
So 2 of them.
There's great access.
And 2 of them approaching kind of venture and prop tech in different ways. So Hines had their Hines Global Ventures, which was betting on creating ventures from the start within the company, solving in big industry challenges from day one, and doing that with a venture builder. So they worked with Mac 49 as a venture builder, and that was their way of doing it. Aroundtown has a very different approach through their program ATechX, where they partner up with strategic investors and other asset managers and the commercial real estate companies, where they give access to their buildings, take a small stake in the companies, and make them grow more kind of organically.
Okay.
So wider portfolio, more companies, a bit less involvement, and we've had the best out of the two of them, efficient in very different ways, and through that angle, Germany has become really, really important.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's great to hear, because just coming back to my role previously to LaSalle was at JLL in innovation. I mean, this is 2016 through to 2020, 21. And that exactly that, right? Hearing that Hines and Aroundtown, but there's so, I think the real estate market is often labelled with it's just not innovative enough. There's just not enough happening, and a lot of that is justified. And one of my sort of frustrations then was at the time was like, how can we we've got these problems, we can see these problems. How do we mobilise enough? I mean, fundamentally, resources and capital to give it enough runway that we can actually prove something works, and then take it out to market and solve what all of our clients are telling us are problems. But it just comes back to the model of real estate, how things are owned, the profit and loss, and how it all kind of gets accounted for. It's just very difficult unless you've got big deep pockets and your own portfolio, which obviously your two parents have got. So it's great to hear that is happening, and that you guys are a sort of net result of when this goes well. It can be successful. So I suppose in terms of like the next year, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know how long you think as a startup founder, but kind of what's your, you mentioned obviously the core focus right now. You mentioned embodied carbon's not currently, but obviously with European rules coming around, circular and embodied carbon, is that going to be something that you're just curious to know kind of what your next, or what your pipeline looks like, and kind of what your next plan is?
So we're working ourselves into this, massaging ourselves into these groups. Real estate is an incredibly, it's a complex animal, where time is just a different entity than what you used to, having worked in other industries. So I come from C2C.
Right.
So the sales cycle of buying a used mobile phone is very different from figuring out how to decarbonize a office building. And it's something I'm eating my fingers every day. Sales cycles up to a year. So even though we started in mid 2024, now we start seeing real traction with the first 2-3 groups. So they continue to give us more work.
Yeah, so it's proving itself.
The first ones are getting from tendering into action. We actually have our installers up on roofs and installing megawatts of solar, installing LED, installing meters.
Must be good to finally see that.
It's good to finally see some photos of people with boots,
doing stuff,
boots and
not just on paper.
Yeah. So that's the main plan is just we just started.
Yeah. Okay.
We need to go out and just roll
Spread
this out, and we can do that being proud of something that is a very strong value prop, and it is making these internal procurement teams spend their time not running tenders on Excel, not taking their PDF tendering bids back and trying to find the different price fields and compare.
Let me ask you, if you've got this, because I didn't ask it earlier, do you have any kind of qualification around like what time saving, cost saving? I don't know if there's any sort of metric that you've sort of managed to conclude around the standard process. And you mentioned the sort of 3 options before versus your option. Do you have a sort of sense of like it's going to save you X, or it's going to curious.
So I'm placing CQuel's big bet is on our capacity to make a very, very, very manual process, make that equally good, if not even better, by using technology. So obviously we've been tracking what's the baseline, taking something from this assessment, this piece of paper that we've been given, to installation and these people up on the roofs. That journey is just insanely long. So many hundreds of hours doing just data gathering, making sense of documents, putting it into creating a tender document. There are piles. There's so much content. Running the tenders, we're working with one of the biggest UK shopping mall owners. We're doing a tender which we received 83 bids from 20 of the biggest solar installers in the country, 5 megawatts of solar. So this is a bit north of 5-6 million euros, pounds of solar investments. Just the time it would take to do that process with all the Q&As and clarifying every field in every bid with 83 different bids. You have X amount of different buildings with different procurement methods. It's just a time drain. So we've been mapping out what that time takes, and then our goal is to get that time down by 80%.
80%, okay.
Obviously you won't cut every piece of it down 80%, but in total that time should be reduced by 80%. Today, what we're working on and what we've been delivering over the last couple of months is a AI-driven Q&A feature, where we've seen that the biggest time drain is actually not receiving the bids, but when you've received the bids, you need to clarify the elements in it, and that is normally a kind of a endless loop of emails and calls, and it takes forever. You're not really able to compare the same fields. You need to clarify what people put in the different ones. That process has now been tackled through our platform, where we interact with our LLM models and our back office, which is slicing down something that took on average 200 hours down to 30 hours. So there you have 170 hours saved on one piece of a quite long decarbonisation journey. So that's where we're taking piece by piece and then driving efficiencies. What does it give for the customers? Our customers and their internal ESG/asset management teams, the teams responsible for making these rollouts possible, they should spend 20% of the time they're spending today doing the retrofit work. So we take 80% of that time off, mix of our own tools and our own mechanical engineers. So 80% time reduction, and marketplaces, which is the only thing, the thing I've been doing all my life. Marketplaces, our marketplace pushed the price down by on average 8%.
Okay.
So if you used to pay, if you used to pay $1 million for a, you have a decent.
And actually, that, I mean, just that alone, right? Because that marketplace piece, I mean, not only is it constantly evolving, and with technology constantly changing, and companies coming in and coming out, so just keeping track of it is just becomes a full-time job unto itself. But then there's the next bit of like, well, as you say, like, is there a better way? Is there a more cost-efficient way? Can we procure this at scale? I mean, one of the things we were trying to do at LaSalle when I was there with our team was identify where we've got the same project across multiple assets and go out to tender to try and get some economies of scale across that. Which sounds good on paper when you're a portfolio owner. In practice becomes really challenging because, well, that asset's at this stage, that asset's at that stage, and getting everyone aligned to be able to execute at the same time is really challenging. Whereas I guess if you can be that one step away and take all of the different bids you've got, that puts you in a really advantageous position. Okay, that's really interesting. I mean, look, it's just there's so much sense to this, and so let's hope that and I'm coming to, I guess, what is it you're looking for? Well, you're obviously looking for clients. So for anyone listening that has this problem, clearly need to reach out. But in terms of curious on the supply side, on the partner side, in terms of solutions, are you seeing briefs from clients or that about where there just isn't the solutions, or there aren't that many solutions, or proven solutions, or tested solutions that you want the industry to kind of step up and start to deliver, or is it fairly kind of saturated on the supply side?
So back to expansions. So obviously, CQuel is in a market with a TAM with many zeros behind it already. So only the 70% of these light retrofits that we are laser focusing on. That's in between 85 and 100 billion euros of investment every year, and it's going to grow.
Yeah.
So the TAM is enormous, and that is the light retrofit technologies we know, suppliers we know, just streamlining the process.
Do that well, yeah.
But then, looking into the crystal ball of things we can do in the future, that gives me lots of energy. We have a quite unique position where we have access to so we have around 400 vetted suppliers on the platform. Many of them are the local, national household names, the ones that they've proven track record. They've been been around for a while. We have international players that we can pull into new geographies. That's something we do more and more
That's
of.
interesting, yeah.
But we also have access to two things, which makes us interesting for more innovative new players. We have access to VC-backed new solutions trying to solve all problems. So there's quite a lot of interesting companies, obviously, trying to attack electrification and energy optimization of commercial real estate with solutions that are different from what we have today. And we have research. So we work with access to some of the universities and see what comes out of them. Okay. So in the future there will be a CQuel, which is more of a research lab where we can have a paper to play and a role to play together with clients and consultancies, identifying new solutions if they want to test out something.
Okay.
Which is one of the great things of being a marketplace.
Yeah.
It's you have some suppliers doing 80% of the work, but you also have a long tail of extremely interesting.
It's funny that, I mean, as you mentioned before, real estate, just I think in some ways it is just the speed at which things get done, which is why the sort of marketplace idea, and we've seen so many in different ways, marketplace of tech solutions, a marketplace of this, and it's just been very difficult to activate and make money out of. I've seen people try it in different spaces. So I think, but like you say, if you can get it right, then it just becomes such an obvious value. Because then suddenly everyone can just look at it and go, okay, well, these are actual real problems. But your VC point's really interesting because, a lot of us, obviously the VC, and certainly has been, I know it's drying up, it's slowed down a bit, but it was all built on that, 110, whatever it is, billion. Okay, well, this is a huge problem, right? Let's just go at it. One of these solutions will be right. But actually, the devil's in the detail, as you rightly know. And so if you can actually pull on that data and say, well, look, this is actually these are the solutions that we actually need, that becomes incredibly valuable intelligence for any VC or for anyone looking to create solutions. So that could become a very valuable.
I think the goal now is just the back to why we're doing this in the first place. Back to why at my 40s, my shift in my career, we're doing this because we need to accelerate something that is really slow. The
100%. That's why I'm doing this.
Exactly.
Share your word.
So the rate of retrofit needs to triple for us to get anything close to the Paris goals, and the only way we can do that is getting those pieces of paper out of the drawers, and that you need technology. There's a concept that I want to speak a bit about because it's the change in the way we look at technology, and something that has been, if there's one message that comes from every property manager and everybody on the client side, and I was looking at the stats this morning. I've had 55 sales meetings so far this year. If there's one thing they tell me, all of them, is they hate SaaS. Absolutely intensely hate SaaS. Not one more of those dashboard companies. The good thing now is we're in a point in time where you can offer a service. You can still be a face. You can still have the interaction with the client. You can solve their problems, and you can do that and really be tech enabled because you can use your own tools. So you can create a business with the magic exponential growth curves, where you can have a revenue per FTE, which is and margin numbers close to software, by being a service player.
Yeah.
That is what we're betting on, and it's called services software.
Yeah.
It has lots of these buzzwords, but we can solve things without having to give them just another login.
Yeah.
On average, a mid-size company has 257 logins.
You said that, it's crazy.
I don't think they need one more.
No. I mean, this is probably a subject for another podcast, because I think there's so much there that resonates in terms of just, as you say, the sort of overload of SaaS. But, with the advent of AI, or particularly LLMs, and now, enterprise AI sort of core systems, all we really need is, or a business really needs, is the data feeding into it.
Exactly.
And then it should have the ability to create the kind of that interactive intelligence layer. And then it plays back to the point, which I guess is, the world that we're sort of finding ourselves, is that, as the virtual world and, everything becomes digital, actually, how do we get back to just having conversations and trust? And exactly. And again, part of the reason why I was doing this. So that's, I fully get that. Okay, conscious of time, a couple of questions I ask all my guests. I mean, you maybe answered the first one, which is that, is there a problem that you're really trying to solve at the moment, or that you think needs solving, that hasn't been solved? Just curious to know.
No, so if you can give me one magic one, if you can solve something so we need to speed up time, and I think so. That is this.
I mean, don't speed up time. I'm old enough.
No, so from the
decision making,
from a regulatory point of view, we need clarity.
Yeah.
So the only thing that the worst thing, actually worse than bad regulations is unclarity around the regulations.
100% agree with that.
So we need to define the rules of the game in Europe. If they're better and worse than what we have today, it matters, but it matters less than getting
not
out,
knowing,
not knowing. So that's one thing we need to do. And I'm profoundly optimistic, but I see some good signs. I think things are going to.
I mean, in Europe, particularly, I think there is energy to continue to do that.
I think so. So and that will hopefully speed up time, and then decision making needs to be happening quicker. That's a challenge for commercial real estate companies.
Yeah.
And it's probably something we can do better as well.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, you've sort of jumped to the second question, but I appreciate it. Is governments listening? Regulation, we need it clearer, faster, and businesses listening. When you've got that net zero or decarb report on your table, just give it to you and execute it, rather than sit on it and wait, or and try and figure it out for yourself. Thank you. Wish you the best of luck with it. I'll be tracking your progress closely. So thank you very much for joining me.
Thanks for the invite.
Thanks, Paul. That's it for this week's episode of The Future We Build. I want to thank you so much for listening to us wherever you are. If you're navigating these same challenges, from pricing in climate risk, decarbonising buildings, or if you're scaling a new product or solution, join us on LinkedIn. Search for me, Alex Eds, or follow our official page at The Future We Build. That's where we break down these episodes further, discuss the topics and discussions, and connect you to the leaders engaged in this mission. This show and the guests I invite will be influenced by the conversations we have on LinkedIn. So if you have ideas or would like to hear the thoughts of an industry leader, let me know, and I look forward to continuing the conversation with you there. You can find the show notes and full transcripts on our website. And if you found today's session valuable, please hit subscribe on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you find your podcasts. Thank you for listening. I'm Alex Eds, and I'll see you next time.